Hi ladies, if you're new here, my name is Marin, and welcome to Thankful Thriftiness. So first of all, it's kind of going to be an interesting video because I actually have to leave in a couple hours. I just found out that for my birthday, my husband's taking me to my favorite bed and breakfast in Amish country. He surprised me, so I'm gonna leave soon. So my house is a wreck and so am I, so please pardon any messes you see. Before I go, I wanted to share with you something I've been making recently, which I think is totally cool and I think you'd like to learn to make as well, once you hear about it. So lately I've been struggling with some things that have let me know that I need to focus more on gut health. And I don't like yogurt. I really don't like yogurt, but I've been eating it, so that's good. The other thing I've been trying to do is make sourdough bread, which also is apparently good for gut health. But the main thing I've been doing is making my own sauerkraut, and I wanted to share with you today how it's done. It's super simple, super easy, super delicious, and amazing for you. So let's get going. Fair warning, I actually made the sauerkraut about a week ago, so it's actually ready today. So as I unpack it, I will share with you how I made it. Okay, so welcome to my kitchen. First of all, my tiny little apartment kitchen. I love it, but I can't seem to get it through my head that it's an apartment kitchen. I kind of treat it like a farmhouse kitchen. There's always something fermenting in here, it feels like, on purpose. Not like food going bad by accident, but on purpose. So I generally ferment things in my microwave, because I find it keeps the smell kind of away from everything else. All right, here's the sauerkraut. And here is something I started this morning. You can probably see it. So it's kind of cool, it's like pickles, but they're like fermented pickles. So we'll see how it goes. Ah, I'm dripping water everywhere. Okay, this is why I need to just leave things alone. Now it smells like garlic. Okay, so here is what sauerkraut looks like after you've fermented it for 7 days, okay? You can see it got some brine in there, and you might even see some bubbles, which is great. You want the bubbles. That means it's working. So I believe it's called lacto-fermentation. That's what I use to ferment my sauerkraut. Here's something you may also see once your sauerkraut is done, is a little bit of mold at the top. That's okay, I'll explain later. So as I unpack the sauerkraut, I'm going to be taking off the top leaves that I used to jam everything inside. Again, watch the video, you'll find out why. As I do this, I'm going to tell you exactly how I made this sauerkraut and how you can too. Making sauerkraut is super easy, pretty affordable, and it's really a great way to get in some good nutrients and bacteria into your gut. My issues I've actually started resolving since I started doing this, so I'm super grateful for that. I eat, I'd say about somewhere between a quarter and half a cup a day of this, and it's just overall, I think, tasty, but really good for you. So, here you go. Remove any damaged outer leaves and toss in the garbage. Then remove the next 2 to 3 high quality outer leaves. Set these to the side, you'll use them later. Core side down, slice your cabbage directly in half. Once you've removed any damaged, unclean, or spoiled parts of the cabbage core, remove the inner clean core. You'll use this later along with the other outer leaves you removed and set to the side. Once your cores are removed, finally slice your cabbage. You could use a mandolin or even a peeler to do this. I like mine a little thicker, so I just use a knife and eyeball it. Set half to the side on a cutting board and put the other half in a mixing bowl. I then like to use about a tablespoon of salt on my cabbage. So I place about half a tablespoon on the cabbage on the cutting board and half of it on the cabbage in the mixing bowl. Now it's time to really work that cabbage. It takes time, okay? So don't feel like it's supposed to be done in a couple minutes. I would say massage it or honestly squeeze the living daylights out of it for at least 5 minutes. Sometimes I stop and take a break using my hands, and I just use my rolling pin. My mother-in-law got me this awesome rolling pin that works really well as a cabbage masher. So if you need to give your hands a break, use something else to pound on the cabbage for a while. After about 5 to 10 minutes, your cabbage should look pretty bruised, maybe even there's a little bit of liquid at the bottom. What you're going to want to do is set that to the side and get this cabbage that's been sitting on the cutting board and do the same. Massage it, pound it, squeeze it, however you like to say it, for about 5 minutes. This will give the cabbage sitting to the side time to let the salt soak in and really do its magic with pulling the brine out of the cabbage. Once you're done with this batch of cabbage, set both bowls to the side for at least 10 to 15 minutes. This will again allow the salt to soak in and really make the cabbage nice and briny. And it'll make it a lot easier later on when you finish squeezing it. After your cabbage is done soaking in the salt, it's time to once again squeeze, massage, pound, however you want to say it, for another 2 to 3 minutes. Your goal is to really break down that cabbage and have brine in the bottom, because you're going to really need that brine later on. That's the magic behind making sauerkraut. Once the cabbage is nicely broken down and there's some liquid in the bottom, pack it tightly into a mason jar. Make sure you pack it as you go. You don't want to just pack it in at the end, because what you want to do is really force that brine out of the cabbage leaves. This brine is what helps preserve the cabbage and what ferments making the sauerkraut. Like I said, really make sure that you pound it in there. This is where the rolling pin really comes in handy, because I could use my hands, but I like mine a little bit less broken down. I like mine a little firmer, so I don't have to work with it as long with my hands, and I just like the texture. So this rolling pin really helps me squash it in and get any brine out of it that I can. Don't pack it in all the way to the top, because A, you need room for air, and B, you need room to put something in there to weigh down your sauerkraut. One cabbage for me makes about 2 jars of sauerkraut, so make sure you do the same with your next jar. As you tightly pack your cabbage into your jars, make sure that the brine is coming and rising above the level of the cabbage when you pound it down. Any cabbage left outside the brine may not fully ferment and actually could spoil. Once you're certain you have enough brine, take the cabbage cores and leaves that we set to the side and use them to tightly pack the cabbage leaves even further into the brine. You're going to use those cores and leaves to weight down your sauerkraut to make sure that all the cabbage you'll be eating is fully submerged within your jar. Before putting the lids on, make sure that the outside of the jar is clean, as well as the part on the inside that is not submerged in brine. Screw your lids on loosely and set aside in a cool, dark place to ferment for at least a week. I like to use my microwave because it keeps it out of my way and I really can't smell it. Now that the sauerkraut has fermented for 7 days, it's time to unpack it. You might notice some mold at the top. Don't panic, it's actually harmless, or at least for the most part, it's generally harmless. These are actually just those leaves that I use to hold everything underneath the brine. You'll notice anything that was in the brine is actually totally moldless, so the brine really does a good job of protecting your sauerkraut. We also have the core that we put in there. I'm just gonna wipe out any mold or any extra anything off of the part that was not in the brine. My other one did not really mold as much, as you can see, just a little bit. I pretty much just used the wedges in this one, so that helped. It smells so strong though, seriously. That's why I keep it in my microwave. Okay. Not going to use the same fork for tasting that I used for getting the mold off, and I just threw sauerkraut everywhere. Let's taste it and see how it is. This is what it should look like once you get rid of your weights or whatever you're using to weight down and keep everything in the brine. That's a good batch. I like this one a lot. It fermented really nicely. It's like the perfect amount of salty. I feel like store-bought sauerkraut is generally too salty. This stuff is not. I believe you could store this in the fridge for up to like 3 months, so that's really great. All right, let's try the other one. Let's see if I have any. Oh, thought I had another wedge in there. Okay, let's see here. They're both pretty much the same, so that's great. Now you're going to need to screw the lids on tightly, and I believe you can store this in the fridge for up to like 3 or 4 months, so just keep an eye on it. The bacteria that was made while fermenting should fight off any mold or spoilage for a long time. Also a perk. So one mistake to avoid with fermenting your sauerkraut is screwing the lids on tightly. Trust me on this one. If you like science experiments, go ahead and try it, but trust me, it will make a smelly mess. I came home one day and my sweet husband said, "Hey hun, I noticed that your lids weren't screwed on tightly, so I screwed them on for you." Bless his heart, he didn't know, and honestly, I didn't either. So when I went to go unscrew the lids, there was a minor explosion and sauerkraut juice went everywhere. So please, don't try that at home. Make sure it's screwed on tightly, obviously fully covering the sauerkraut and containing it, but not so tightly that it will literally cause an explosion when you open it. That fermentation makes a lot of bubbles, creates a lot of air and gases that will force the juice out once you unscrew it if you screw it too tightly. I generally enjoy my sauerkraut in the mornings, kind of as part of breakfast. I know it's a weird breakfast food, but it's just helpful for me to remember to eat it every day. One other thing I wanted to let you know about is that there is now a Thankful Thriftiness Pinterest board where you'll find all sorts of recipes, cool project ideas, and etc. So, I linked it below. Go ahead and click on that link and check it out. If this video was helpful to you, please give it a thumbs up, and if you're not already, please subscribe to this channel. Let me know in the comments below whether or not you even like sauerkraut, because I know it's kind of one of those things that not everybody likes. I didn't know I liked it until I tried it, so if you haven't tried it, you should give it a try. Thanks y'all so much for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you next week.